Hello, thank you for coming along to this channel. My name is Janet. I'm working through the King James's Bible within 1 year, and today I am in the book of Job, working through chapters 28 to 31. Now, if you've not read the book of Job, it would be good to go back to the videos I've already made, and that will get you up to speed with where we are. Or alternatively, you could read your Bible and get your own interpretation, so we can start right here today. So if you're ready, let's begin. Now, just to be clear, I am just going to read through the notes that I've made today as I've read through these chapters. It's not exactly as it is written in the Bible itself. This is just my interpretation of what I have read and what I've researched as well. So, in chapter 28, as we know, Job has been going through so much, bless him. He has lost everything, and he's been tested by God and Satan to see if he is a righteous man, that he'll stay faithful to him when he's lost everything and his body is covered in these boils. He's got his friends who are not really supportive, 3 friends who have just decided he sinned, that is the only reason God is judging him in this way, therefore he needs to repent. So he has nobody really outside of him that he can call on. This is all an inside job that he has to figure out for himself. So this is a huge test. And I'm sure if we look at our own lives, we will be tested like this at some point, or have already. And this is where we've got to dig deep in our hearts and minds to get to that place of understanding why our lives are the way they are right now, because there is always a reason, and we can overcome anything when we trust in that higher source. So here we go with chapter 28. So Job discusses the different metals of the earth. He talks about silver being mined and gold being refined, how iron is taken from the earth and copper smelted from ore. To me, it's almost like an outer world reflection of his inner world, how there are so many facets to our minds, to our bodies, and how we work, the mechanisms of our minds. We can seek and we can find gold in our thoughts, or we can find darkness in our thoughts. So it's all about digging into the mind to find those gold and to refine things in our minds, to refine the good things and bring some light into what is going on right now. He then talks about from the earth we are given bread, and underneath the earth lies fire. Stones are the source of sapphires, and the earth contains gold. That path that no bird knows, nor a falcon's eye can see. And Job describes the many facets of earth with its mountains, its channels, its streams, and precious things. This is what he covers in verses 5 to 11. So this to me kind of shows that no other man, no other person can understand our inner world, because no other person can see it or hear it or feel it like you yourself do. So this searching, like he talks about the waters, they're like our emotions water, they change and flow in different ways. It really, to me, in the way he's talking, it so reminds me that he's doing some really deep soul searching. Because if you think of the mind, it's much like the external world. We have veins, we've got blood, we've got electrical pulses, we've got electricity outside of us, we've got streams and rivers. And we've got metals too within us. We take iron tablets, all of those things. We are just like stars. And we need all of these things to survive. And we don't see the operation that's going on within ourselves. Everything is taking on its own beautiful symbiotic way of keeping us alive. We don't keep an eye on our blood pumping around our body. Our heart just does that. And that is given to us by God, this source that is creating all of this. And he is seeking outside the rivers. He's looking at gold. He's looking at everything outside of himself. To me, this is how I'm taking it, so that he can get a deeper understanding as why I'm in this place. This is so painful where he is right now, but this is so beautiful where he's going in terms of his writing, or whoever did write the book of Job, because it doesn't say that Job was the author, but whoever is writing these words is really has channeled into a source of deep soul knowing. because this hidden world is so magnificent. It's so beautiful, like our internal world. If we could really see how it operates, I mean, scientists do, doctors do, I guess they look at little segments, but if we could see it on a whole grand scale, like that, we'd be totally in awe. We'd be in awe. And like the world, it can be a source of comfort and a source of pain. We can be in the world and it can be a beautiful sunny day and we can feel at peace with the birds singing around us. Or we could be in the world and it could be an horrendous day. The rain could be falling down on us, there could be thunder and lightning, and it can totally be painful. And it's the same with our internal world. You know, we can feel good in our bodies, we can feel rested, or we can have illness and upset and pain. So similar. So we have to work at life to make it beautiful and use the many resources that abide within us. That's what I take from these words, because we are all perfect in God's eyes. Okay, let's get back to the story. So Job then goes on to search for wisdom, and he's asking, where is it found? He says, man does not know its value. You can't deep dive into the ocean to find it. You can't buy wisdom. It's not in precious gemstones. And no amount of gold can equal wisdom's value. And Job's thoughts about seeking out the riches of the earth also reflect how wisdom cannot be found so easily. Wisdom is a rarity, he says. So where then does wisdom come from? Where can it be understood? Is it hidden and concealed from us? But he says that God knows it. God knows wisdom. He looks to the end of the earth, under the heavens. He made rain, weight of a wind. You know, he's made all of these things so perfectly. We can't even comprehend, why the wind is of its density and volume as it is, why water comes down in droplets and is formed. There's so many intricacies to the world of wisdom that we don't know. We don't understand that, but God does. There's also a place for a thunderbolt. All of these things happen in the world at set times all over the world. So there is a place for everything. And he says the fear of the Lord equals wisdom, because to know your fear, it's like you know your place in the world. And he says departing from evil equals understanding. When you pull away from the things that make you suffer, you're starting to understand how to work with the world, not against it, but with it. And this is where we close chapter 28 today. Now in chapter 29, Job starts discussing about his life before all of this suffering came, how his life was so good, how the light shone upon him. He had his children all around him. God was over his tent, he said, so he was over his home. He was always looking out for him. He talks about his riches, his luxuries, his health. He was in his prime. And this was all when God was for him, when he wasn't against him. And he looks back and he sees how blessed he was, and how he blessed those he met along the way, from princes, nobles, widows, the blind, poor people. He saw and touched them all. He was wise and he was strong and he was respected in his community. And he did good with his abundance and prosperity. He gave to the poor. He was a giving man. He looked out for everyone. He wasn't selfish. It's like it describes how beautiful he was as a person in this chapter. And Job thought he would die a happy man. Job was a leader in his community and people listened to him. They wanted his guidance, his counsel. And he recalls himself being like a chief over the army and a comforter to those who were mourning and in grief. And so, yes, it really gives us a beautiful picture who Job was before all of this suffering has suddenly landed upon him. This is where we close chapter 29. Now in chapter 30, he looks at his life today and where he is. How he's now mocked by these young men who used to be so wicked and not good in his book. They are now mocking him. He's seeing how the unworthy are now looking down upon him and the injustice of it all. He says they now mock me and they spit in my face. I'm now a lowlife in their eyes. He talks about how his respect and honour has just passed by like a cloud and never to be witnessed again the same. He says he's got no safety, no walls of defence around him. He's so vulnerable, he's frail and His dignity has all turned to dust. His soul aches and his body aches. The pain of his circumstances, he's crying out to God, but he's receiving no answer. And the cruelty of it, feeling this opposition of God, who he's always felt's been on his side. Now it's destroying his success because he can't regain that connection. He's just so lost and confused. And so he's thinking about death, and soon he will die, as set for all of the living. He feels that all his work, all the goodness that he's done, all the rightness that he's done by God has been turned into darkness. And he's just feeling this futility and the injustice of it all. He says his song has turned to mourning. You know, somebody who is so joyful and probably singing every day is now mourning with this suffering and this pain. And he weeps and his heart is in turmoil. And this is where we close chapter 30. So in our final chapter today, chapter 31, Job pleads his innocence to God. He says, I've made a covenant with my eyes and I have never lusted after any young women. He says, has God not seen my true ways and not counted my every step? And he says, if I have walked with falsehood, let my life be weighed up on the honesty scales. So he's putting his life out there to God, and he wants him to look at it and he wants him to tell him, where exactly do you feel I've gone wrong, that you have turned against me? And he's calling for this judgment so that he can then put right what he does not know that he has done wrong. He says, I was always faithful to my wife. And he says, if you feel I have not, then yes, I should be judged. I was always compassionate to those who worked for me, both male and female. For they are God's creation just like I. That's how he saw others, like God has created them. Everybody is equal on this earth, so he paid them the same respect as any other person. He says, anyone who is poor or was treated badly, I always helped them out, and if not, then let me be punished. He's saying, if you think I have not, then let me be punished. He's like, show me where I've gone wrong, but I am showing you I feel I have done right. And he details such slight of things. You know, he's looking through everything. He's sifting through everything, like rejoicing for his abundance. Was that something sinful, that he was rejoicing for how good things were? Was he wrong for receiving the highs from the sun shining down on him, or the moon's brightness? Did his heart leave God in these moments? Is that why? He says he never felt happy when his enemies were being judged or when they were suffering. You know, he never took like satisfaction out of seeing somebody he possibly had conflict with go into this demise. He said, if I saw a homeless man, I would offer him shelter. And he says, I am not trying to hide any sins. Ultimately, what he's trying to do here is root it out. What exactly is it? I need to know what it is, because then I can put it right. But when I don't know what it is, it's just leaving me in this quandary of his mind. And as we close this chapter, this is Job crying out to God to hear me, he says. He wants him to answer him, to be present and to teach him so that he can move forward in his life. And this is where we close our final chapter today, chapter 31. So yes, more soul seeking with Job. It really is a deep dive into the internal world, this book, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. Is it bringing things to light for you? How you can look inside of your own life and find answers maybe that you're not able to be found. For me, it's showing a lot of how we do seek within, and sometimes we seek a lot of answers outside and they cannot be found there. We do have to do what Job is doing, this real deep searching, and maybe we have to be patient. You know, we don't always get our answers when we want them. We have to give that time. It's all in God's timing, you know, it's all in divine timing, as they say. So let us leave this book here for now, and I'll carry on tomorrow with more chapters in the book of Job. And if you want to join me, my video will be posted soon. So thank you for your time. Thanks for listening, and have a beautiful day. Bye.